Hi everybody, how's everybody doing? Well, it's a little chilly out today, so I went ahead, I put my hat on. So great to see each and every one of you. I'm really humbled by this and humbled to be giving these messages. So appreciate each and every one of you. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day. So let's go ahead and get started. Today we're talking about what it means to be a godly woman. There were two messages that came in that I wanted to talk about that had to do with some stories in the Bible, and then want to talk about three things as far as, what it means to be a godly woman. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and let's start with the first one. The first message coming in for the godly woman today is God is telling you, you don't have to try so hard. I'm right here. I made you with a beautiful heart, and I see it. All you have to do is just come to me. Feeling like sometimes when you're not enough, or you're unloved, or you're unwanted, and really feeling down, go to God in these moments. He will change that around and turn it into something beautiful. He comes to you the most during these times, but he wants you to come to him also and rely on him. So, like I said, if you're feeling like you're not enough right now, that's the message that's coming in. We're talking about right now a woman in the Bible. And she was loved without being loved. She gave her love to a man, guys, who did not love her. Her name was Leah. And she ended up being married to Jacob. But God ended up changing her unwantingness and the way she felt unloved and how she felt like she wasn't enough and she was abandoned. And he turned it into something truly beautiful. This story is to relate to all of us. If you can relate to some parts of this story in your life, remember that God sees it. God sees your beauty. And he's always right there with you. He's going to turn it into something beautiful, okay? So, like I said, Leah, she was loved without being loved. It was like her sister Rachel, who was the oldest sister, she was the youngest, was just born with beauty. And all the men just loved her. Where you have Leah, who felt like she wasn't really there. She had such a very, very loving heart. But men did not see her as being beautiful. They wanted to be around Rachel. And they saw her as being so beautiful. And Leah kind of got left in the distance where she wasn't noticed. She didn't feel like she was loved or desired in the way that a woman wants to be desired, right? So, but she was seen by God. She was seen by God and how beautiful she was. So, Jacob had met Rachel and fell instantly in love with her. Leah had feelings for Jacob, but I think she kind of, by the way it talks about in the Bible, she kind of kept them under wraps, so to speak. You can kind of read in between the lines and see where she was. She did have affectionate towards him, but he was so involved with Rachel. He was so involved in her beauty and how she looked. He worked for 7 years outside, doing things in the hot sun to gain that place with her through this marriage. So the day came, and you have all these festivities and they're getting married. During that time, it's still a day you wear the veil, so the veil was over, which was going to be, which we find out if you've read this before, supposedly Rachel had the veil on, they got married, they had the festivities. Later that night, in the darkness, the veil, was still on, and then Jacob woke up in the morning to see that it wasn't Rachel, but that it was actually Leah there. Disappointment overcame him. He was very upset. How could he work these 7 years? So he went to her father and he said, well, how did you do this? This is so deceptive. How did you do this to me? And he told her, or he told Jacob that, this is the way that it's done. You know, the younger daughter always gets married first before the older daughter. Well, you can only imagine how Leah felt. It wasn't that she was doing this to be undermining, but I feel like at the time this was her father's word, and she followed through with that. So she was actually going to a man who she knew didn't love her. But she did it because her father was telling her to do this, right? And at this time, because of this, if you can imagine that, she felt invisible during this time. And she felt unloved and unwanted. Here she was in this marriage, and she didn't feel like it was very loving at all, because Jacob still had eyes, still had that desire for Rachel. So even though they were married, he had the longing for someone else. So they were in this relationship, but she felt invisible, right? Just like sometimes I think we can relate to this. I mean, let's be honest, it's coming in. If you're in a marriage and sometimes you feel unwanted or unloved, to realize the first person to go to is God, and God is telling you to come to him when you're not feeling like you're enough. You know, come to him, and you'll see how Leah was actually chosen. This person that felt unwanted, undesired, wasn't seen in the world as desirable. God came in and did amazing, amazing things. So Leah, they're married, Jacob is still, I guess you can say he's in love with Rachel, so he still goes off with Rachel. Leah thinks, man, she ends up having 4 sons. And with each son, she thinks that, man, this is it. We're going to get married, and it's going to change when we have a baby. Can relate so much to today's life too, can it, in some ways? We're going to have this baby. It's going to change everything. We're just going to get so close. Well, it never happened, right? With each child. And like I said, Leah, she had 4 boys. She thought, oh, this is a boy. This is a legacy. It's going to be amazing. But he still went to Rachel now and started going to Rachel more and more. Well, Rachel ended up being barren, guys, at this time, where Leah was blessed with these children. Well, it ends up with her 4th child, right? She was chosen by God. She realized that even though she was rejected by Jacob, she was so loved by God. Remember that, guys. Whenever you feel rejected, remember how loved you are by God. She was chosen by God. God was looking into her heart, and she changed human history forever, guys. In God's eyes, she was the best gift, pure in love. So when she had her 4th child, and she was chosen by God, it actually went into history, where it went down to King David. And because of King David, then through the lineage, Jesus was born. So her life was worth so much more. A direct descendant of Jesus. And by her having that 4th child, made it possible for Jesus to be born. So God is telling you, he wants you to look at your own life and see how loved you are by God. See how in his eyes you have a beautiful heart. You have your Father's heart. And you always have. So don't ever feel like you're unwanted, right? Or you're not enough. In God's eyes, you are beautiful. Okay, so that's the first message. Just that God saw her as valuable. And the 4th child's name, guys, the name was Judah. And she praised God at this time, right? I just want to say that. Because King David would come, and then Jesus Christ. So God chooses the humble, and God values your heart. Remember that, guys. And the second one that's coming in, I always say this, I said that with the one that I did for the men too, is don't shoot the messenger. This one is coming in too, guys. It's saying that to be aware of the Jezebel spirit. These are 2 things that you guys might want to look up in the Bible too and see the story about. The first one is Leah, and the second one is about Jezebel. Okay, because I know everybody says, oh my goodness, Jezebel spirit, you know, but to be aware of this, and women that are around you. And I don't think I have the word, and sometimes how, you know, you can become Jezebelin. Does that word make sense? I'm not sure. How that can kind of come into our spirit sometimes, say, no way, right? But to always realize that this woman always has to be in control. If you find someone that's Jezebel, they always have to be in control. It means that when they are told no, it doesn't mean like you're on a project or something, they're told no, we're gonna get this done, you know, we're gonna help this person out. It means that they always have to be in control. When you tell them no, they are going to push and push and push until you finally feel so exhausted. They will make you feel so low that you feel like you're worth nothing. Maybe you're on this project and 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 this woman, you know, has told you that, you know, it's not any good, and she keeps on bringing you down and down and down until you feel like nothing, until you feel like your gifts are nothing, right? And then you kind of lose that spirit with God too, because you let this person kind of come into you, and all those things get taken into your heart where God should be. I feel like I really want to say that. And also despises any authority, right? Doesn't like any authority at all, has to always be in control. You find this Jezebel person will actually go around and tell things that aren't true. Or you're like, gosh, that was only half the story, but the other half, what happened? Or maybe we'll tell the story, but we'll make it seem in a very condescending way. It'll be something that would be maybe very uplifting, but make it sound so terrible the way that it's said, the tone in it and everything. You're like, wow, you know, this is not good. But to realize that in today's world, especially, you know, the Bible still stands true. There are people who do have that Jezebelian spirit in them, and they use it to abuse people and to control. To remember that too. Don't ever let that spirit get inside of you either. Let's say that you are, you know, you're going out, man, I'm going to have a whole bunch of drinks, and, you know, I'm going to find myself a one-night stand tonight. No, you know, I don't mean to say it like that, but you guys know, if you guys start to read the Bible, you know that's not God's way, right? So I just want to kind of put that out there too. And then also, Jezebel would do things for their own good, right? Like, oh man, I am going to dress really, really, you know, sexy tonight. So I'm going to use that part of my femininity, and I'm going to use it to get what I want. So that's what I'm saying. I mean, if it's someone like you've been dating, like this outfit, you know what I mean? There is that fine line. But if you're just doing it because you want to be in control of that man, you be in control of that situation, you want him to bow down to you, that is definitely the Jezebelian part coming into you. I mean, you know what I mean? That spirit. And I think I'm just saying this so we all know how to recognize it. We know how to recognize someone that's around us that does have, you know, Jezebel characteristics, or sometimes it comes into us and we have to kind of weed it back and go back to God, you know, because if you get in that controlling place, then that femininity that God gave you is being used, you know, in the wrong way. I just want to say that about that too. And if you get a moment, please, I think I'm feeling God to tell you guys, please read the story. It's in 1 Kings. And to read the story, you really see how, for example, her being in control. They wanted to, I know I told this story before, but they wanted to have a vineyard that was close to where they lived. So the king went and asked, you know, for it. He said, no, it's been our legacy. We can't do it. Well, Jezebel went behind the king and hired these thugs to go and say that he was an ungodly man. He was speaking bad about God, speaking bad about the king, and he ended up getting stoned to death. Well, the king ended up repenting for that. He never knew that Jezebel had done that. Jezebel was very promiscuous, always getting what she wanted. Ended up, she died in a very gruesome way when the new king came in. And, you know, and then her legacy is, you'll find out they end up going around and killing all of the descendants, so there would be no legacy at all for them, nothing to do with their lineage or anything, and that her story lives on, her spirit lives on, but it's in such an like evil and bad way. And you'll see, you know, when you read the story, how what came of that is everybody knows about the Jezebel spirit now, and how she was condemned for what she did. All right, and you have to read on that. You'll find out more. It's a very interesting story, and there's a lot of lessons in that, along with the story of Leah. I kind of recommend that you guys, you know, do both. And it's going on 14 minutes, guys. Wow, this is going on long. So I think what I'll do is I will just read the first one for being a godly woman today, and then do the other ones tomorrow, because I actually want to do 4, so that'll work out good, and I can do the other 3 tomorrow, okay? So the first thing about being a godly woman is your love for God and your undenying faith in that love. You're devoted to God. You're not going to let those things of the world come and take you away, you know. What do I mean by that? I mean, be in those situations where gossip, you know, where someone is just so gossipy, and you find yourself getting that gossip or spreading that gossip or making someone's name look bad. No, you're not going to do that. You can have the devotion to God. It's never ending. That's their loyalty. You're submitting to that faith as you know what to do. You know how to treat people. You see someone that may be coming up and yelling at you. You may have to walk away, like we talked about before, but you give them compassion, you know, seeing through God's eyes where they're really being hurt. The devotion to God is changing how you view, you know, other people around you. I want to bring up a Bible verse for this one too, and it's Ruth 1:16 and 17. And Ruth is talking to her mother-in-law who is grieving right now. And she says this to her. She says, "Do not urge me to leave you or turn back from you. Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord do so to me, and more also, if anything but death shall separate me from you." So she took this place of where there could have been so much desperation and hope, and she came from that, where she found that undenying faith. She was going to stay with her mother-in-law and leave her family behind because she knew that she was needed. What a hard decision that she made. She understood she understood the undenying faith and the love that she had, the devotion to God. And so she went where she was needed. And she made such a powerful speech. How strong is that? How much of a warrior we are in God's eyes. And not that warrior where we are like, you know, coming out and being really loud, but in the spirit, in the heart, the warrior that we are there, getting up and keep on going, persevering, seeing the strength in that, not letting that Jezebel ways get into us, but using our femininity for good and not for bad. All right, guys, well, I think I might even talk a little bit about that more tomorrow, but I realize it's getting a little bit into a lot of time, but I think that I'm going to go ahead and talk about it tomorrow, but I think I might assign you guys some homework if that's okay. If you guys can please read about Leah in the Bible and also about Jezebel, I think you'll be able to see where they come from and how this is such strong and powerful things these women are doing. One was good and the other one was bad. You can see the difference by reading these. All right, guys, well, everybody have a blessed day. I will finish this up tomorrow and I will see you guys later. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.